Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be talking about another 10 modern Doctor Who stories that are worse than The Power of Kroll. As The Power of Kroll is kind of the poster child of bad classic Doctor Who for this channel, even if it might not be my least favorite classic Who story. It's kind of the one y'all would probably most associate with me not liking from classic Who. Now, if you don't see a story on this list that you think should be on this list, I would recommend you check out the original list, because I did do a video talking about 15 modern Doctor Who stories that are worse than The Power of Kroll. You can find that up here. Today we're going to talk about 10 more stories, so a lot of them probably appeared on that list. Now, some of the stories on this list aren't outright garbage. Some of them are watchable. Some of them I had to think, is it worse? You know, I'll mention those when I get to them specifically, how some of them just aren't out and out garbage like some of them are. So, let's get into it. Starting with It Takes You Away. This is the one where I knew I had to do another list. Some people had mentioned this one in the comments to the first video. And I was like, yeah, It Takes You Away. That one should be on there. I got to make another list. I don't like It Takes You Away. It's really dumb. First, of course, it's got to paint the dad in a bad light, because fucking course it does. And then the whole dimension in between the mirrors feels like a waste of time to pad it out. And then the whole thing with the frog at the end. This was just boring and dumb. Like, I guess it's supposed to have some really neat ideas about this other universe that can't exist inside our universe for whatever reason, and that it's sentient, and, you know, just talking about it sounds more dumb. There's a good idea in there, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And then the whole bit with her talking to the frog at the end, I'm just like, okay. I think I've only watched this one maybe twice. I know I've seen it once. I saw it when it aired. I feel like I've watched it a second time. I don't really like it. It's, once again, Series 11 taking another dig at men, which it does a lot, that series. There's definitely a strong argument to be made for that. It's a very bash the patriarchy season. I'm not saying that was the intentional case, and there's no one episode that makes me think that, but if you look at Series 11 as a whole, I think there's an argument to be made for that. Whittaker doesn't really impress me in that episode, to be honest. And I just think the idea is dumb. And, well, quite frankly, all of classic Doctor Who is better. The Gunfighters, Delta and the Bannermen, the Leisure Hive, they're all far more watchable than this junk. Continuing with the Whittaker era, I'm going to say the Witchfinders. Now, the Witchfinders isn't all bad. I don't really like this one. I don't go back and rewatch this one. But I got to give credit to Alan for, I think it's Alan's his name, for playing King James. That's the best part of the episode. I love his portrayal of King James. He's great. I will mention that. He's great. The actress playing the woman who's infected and turns at the end, she's doing a good job. I will give props to her. The village lady that's a pain in the neck, she is really, really good. I don't care for the story. I don't care how, I really feel like you could have done this as a pure historical. I don't really like the resolution at the end. Her transformation into the creature doesn't really impress me. I don't like the makeup used on the reanimated corpses, like the one woman, the aunt or the mother, where she looks like she's covered in mud. I don't like the execution of that. Again, it's not all bad. It's just worse than anything classic Doctor Who ever put out, and that's why it's on this list. Next on the list is Oxygen. I don't like Oxygen. Now, I will admit, Oxygen is another one of those stories that seems to have a divided fan base. I know some people who really like Oxygen. I know plenty of other people who really don't like Oxygen. It seems no one ever really seems to fall in the middle on that one. You either really like it or you really don't. Capaldi is great in it, but the story doesn't grab me. I didn't like the opening teaser when the girl got killed. It's like, I liked her. I don't know, I felt like I was connecting with her, and then she gets killed. Now, the way they shoot it with her helmet floating past the guy and he looks up and they're coming like zombies is spooky and creepy, but that whole intro with her dying like that put me off the whole episode right there. And then the stuff where the suits control you when you die, that's a very creative Doctor Who thing to do, I'll give it that. It just doesn't come together for me. Capaldi becoming blind doesn't really work for me. The bit where they have to let Bill die, but she somehow doesn't completely die, I'm not quite sure how that works out. The whole Puck shot at capitalism doesn't really work. I mean, what are the people who made it, communist or something? His line about it all comes down to the suits, which did give me a chuckle the first time I heard it, but it's trying too hard. I just don't get into this one. I never go back and rewatch it. I like Series 10 as a whole, but this is one of the ones that just holds it back for me. Again, I'd rather watch Power of Kroll than watch it again. It just doesn't grasp me. I'm glad it's not one of the first episodes of Doctor Who I ever saw, or else I probably wouldn't be a Doctor Who fan. Next on the list is Orphan 55, which, to be fair, Orphan 55 has some good things going in it. The reveal of it being Earth, I did not see coming. And that's so tropey at this point, I should have seen it coming. But the fact it managed to pull that on me and not figuring it out until, the people in the show figure it out, it's very beneath the Planet of the Apes, but it's still neat. So I'm always going to give it a few points for that. It does a couple other things I like, I can't really think of at the moment. But I did do a video on it once called, Orphan 55, The Good, the Bad, and the Stupid. Because it does some good things. It does a lot of really bad things. It does a lot of really dumb things. Benny! Where's my Benny? Oh, where's my earplugs? I don't really care for the creature design that much. I mean, it's not the worst. I think I flipped back and forth on it. It looks a little odd. I don't like the fact that when she sees the mental image of the Earth destroying itself, it looks like present day Earth destroying itself, which doesn't fit, because we know Earth doesn't destroy itself now, at least in Doctor Who canon, who knows about the real world. I don't really care for that. A lot of the guest cast aren't really memorable to me. Like, the guest cast never really impressed me here. Although I do like the bit when you find out the one girl is the other girl's daughter. She's like, oh yeah, and she named me Trixie Belle. That's funny. But yeah, and then the speech at the end. That's what really ruins this more than anything else. That, and again, the cast aren't very memorable. The guest cast just, yeah. That speech at the end where it just feels like she's lecturing to you. Hi, I'm Jodie Whittaker. I'm the 13th Doctor, and I'm going to tell you how you were all being bad. And she's just talking right to the camera, and we can save the Earth, and it cuts to the creature like, it's so on the nose. I mean, don't get me wrong. I never accused Chris Chibnall of subtlety. I don't think the man would know what subtle is if it reached out and slapped him in the face. But this one just, I mean, I don't actually know who wrote this episode, but yeah, there's a lot of dumb going on in it. A lot of dumb. Not the worst. And it's watchable. Orphan 55 is one I could see myself going back and rewatching every few years, every 5 or 6 years maybe. Not a lot, but it's enough to where I'd at least call it watchable. Just, I'd rather watch Power of Prowl. Next on the list is Let's Kill, well, that German guy that YouTube doesn't like saying the name of. You know who that is. This one's dumb. This one is dumb. The whole bit with River's song and River regenerating, then River getting shot, but because she just regenerated, she can do the bullets, and I'm sitting here going, I feel like I should be humming the John Williams theme for Superman. The whole bit where he knows she's trying to trick him, but he still gets poisoned by the lipstick anyway. And Mel is never that big of a character. If they had introduced Mel in Series 5 and we'd had some build-up for her, it would have worked. But just introducing her right here, we don't care about her. The twist isn't much of a twist. It doesn't pay off. Now, the guys having the miniature guys in the suit that they can make look like anybody, that's pretty neat. I like that, and how it comes into play at the end of the series is pretty neat. And I like that they like running around just torturing people in history. And I will admit the bit when that German guy's like, I think you saved my life, and Matt Smith's just like, I assure you, it was an accident. It is funny just because the way Matt Smith delivers that line where he's like, it was an accident, I assure you. that gave me a little chuckle, just the way Matt Smith delivers that line. But yeah, this is another one that's just other than setting things up for the finale with the miniature people in the machine, it doesn't really do much. I guess giving River sort of an origin story that nobody asked for or cared about. Just not a fun rewatch. It's yet another Series 6 episode that's not very good. Series 6 in general just isn't very good. Matt Smith's putting in a great performance, though, to be fair. Just not a good episode. Next on the list is Turn Left. I don't care for Turn Left. Don't get me wrong, the episode is great for Donna's character growth. It really is, and Catherine Tate's putting in a great performance, as is a lot of the other people in the episode with her. Its biggest problem, and the reason I don't like it, is because the whole linchpin of the episode rides on the fact that the Doctor, without Donna being there, the Doctor wouldn't have gotten out in time and would have died during the events of the Runaway Bride. And I don't buy it. And I remember in the Runaway Bride, she's like, okay, we can leave now. But I still think the Doctor being the Doctor, he would have been so distracted that he couldn't get out. I don't buy it. And because I don't buy that premise, and that's what the whole episode is based on, that is the linchpin of the episode, the whole episode falls apart for me. Also, because it exists, it once again takes away an episode where we could have had Donna and the Doctor together. Because I love the 10th Doctor and Donna when they're together. One of the reasons I like Unicorn and the Wasp. They're so good together. They have such good chemistry together. It's my biggest problem with Midnight isn't Midnight. It's the fact that it's another episode. It takes the place of an episode where we could have had the Doctor and Donna together. Turns Left's biggest crime is also that. It takes away an episode where we could have had the Doctor and Donna together before going into the end game of Stolen Earth and Journey's End. So that's my biggest issue with it. And plus, just the episode itself doesn't do much for me. Now, I've watched it several times because I do tend to be fascinated by episodes that are like parallel events, parallel universes, and we do kind of see a parallel pocket universe here where things played out different. It's interesting seeing how events would have played out without the Doctor. That's interesting, but at the end of the day, I just don't really care for Turn Left. Watchable, but I haven't gone back and watched it in years. I'd rather watch The Gunfighters, though probably not by much. And the next one on the list is The Caretaker. This episode is tonally all over the place. It can't seem to make up its mind what it wants to be. Is it supposed to be a comedy? Is it supposed to be serious? It feels kind of like a comedy. First off, this one has Danny Pink in it a lot. I don't like Danny Pink. No offense to the actor. I just never got into Danny Pink. I never buy the relationship between him and Clara. I don't like the fact that him and Capaldi butt heads. And Capaldi's got his big, oh, you're just a soldier. Come on, soldier, at ease, soldier. It's one of the reasons why anytime people are like, Capaldi's my favorite Doctor, I'm like, why? That whole bit with him and soldiers is so weird. I mean, the 12th Doctor would not have worked at UNIT very well. I mean, even the 3rd Doctor might have thought they were a little rigid-minded, but he wasn't that antagonistic toward him. And the 3rd Doctor could be antagonistic to people, but not the way like the 12th Doctor can, especially the early 12th Doctor, like Series 8 12th Doctor. You know, oh, you're just a soldier following. That really rubs me the wrong way. And again, I don't like Danny either. I think the robot looks silly. It looks like something that belongs in the Sarah Jane Adventures. I can't really take it seriously. I feel like this one is supposed to be a comedy, and it doesn't work. I never get into The Caretaker. It's one of the reasons why Series 8 is such a mixed bag. Because Series 8 has some great stories. Series 8 has some terrible stories, and this is one of the terrible ones. Next on the list is Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. This is really the main Season 7B story I don't get into. I think I've only watched it the one time. I think I watched it when it originally aired. And I've always meant to go back to it and give it another shot. And every time I'm like, I can give Journey to the TARDIS another shot. I'm switching over to it and I'm like, maybe later. Let's watch Crimson Horror again. I can never bring myself to press that play button. I just didn't like it. It's nice seeing other places inside the TARDIS, like when Clara finds the Time War book. That's pretty neat. I don't care for the two guest characters at all. I don't, again, it's nothing on the actors. They just don't feel memorable to me. Again, that also could be because I've only watched it the one time, which has been, what, 10 years ago now? So it probably does need a rewatch. And then seeing the monsters that are following them, the burnt monsters, the resolution of that. I just, aside from tying in more with Clara being the kind of MacGuffin mystery box of the season, it doesn't really add much to anything, and I don't find it an interesting watch. I'd rather watch Leisure Hive. I'd rather watch Delta and the Bannerman, though maybe only barely. Next on the list is the Zygon Invasion and the Zygon Inversion. This one's boring. This should have been one episode. It just drags. I'd rather watch the Web Planet. The Web Planet drags less than this. This just drags. I'd rather watch the Daleks, the original 7-part Daleks. It drags less than this. This 2-parter drags. Clara, once Clara becomes the alien Clara, it's obvious that happens. So, now the scene when they spring the trap on Unit with the girl with the glasses, when she's like, but you're sleeping in there, but you said, that whole trap is shot pretty well. That's pretty cool. And of course, Capaldi's speech, the Zygon Inversion speech at the end is phenomenal. It's one of Capaldi's best moments. He nails that speech, but it's trapped in an episode that's not worth watching to get to it. Like when we find out the one police sheriff or whatever that's with Kate is actually a Zygon. I'm sitting here going, no kidding. Why is this a surprise? When the soldiers, when the Zygons take the shape of all of their mothers and stuff, and the soldiers lay out down their arms and go in, every single one of them that died deserved it. Those soldiers who just laid down their weapons and follow them into the building, when they all died, I was like, good. Y'all were dumb. Y'all deserved that. I've said that before, and people in the comments like, what if they turned into your mother? I'd have been switching to fully auto. From semi to fully. The Zygons really picked a bad battle plan. I'm just kidding. I have to be careful. My mother watches some of these videos, apparently, I found out. Yes, my mother had me very young. We have more of a brother-sister type relationship sometimes when it comes to our senses of humor and how we cut up. We'll start randomly singing a Warrant or a Poison song, and my stepdad's like, I can't take y'all anywhere. But yeah, it's just, the Zygon one's just, it's boring, it's uninteresting. I don't care. I'm sitting here like, okay, get to the speech, get to the speech, get to the speech. But see, I don't even do that now. I just go on YouTube. I can watch the speech on YouTube, and I'm good. This is not one of those stories where it's worth going through the whole story for that one good part, like some episodes can be. This one's not. That brings me to the last one on the list, which is the girl who died and the woman who lived. And the only reason this episode exists is like, hey, we got the girl from Game of Thrones, Maelys Williams or whatever her name is. Arya Stark, I think. I don't watch Game of Thrones. But pretty much the whole reason this two-parter exists is because they had her, and Game of Thrones was big at the time. They wanted to be like, look who we got. Doing some J&T stunt casting here. This one is also just not very interesting. Part 1 I don't care for, with the Vikings and her and using her imagination and how it drains her. And the Doctor's solution to that is to make her immortal forever. And by putting that chip in her head, she lives forever. Can you say, huh? Now, it's got that one really good scene when the Doctor realizes why he has his face. And he remembers the events of Fires of Pompeii. That's a beautiful moment. I love that moment. It's a beautiful scene. I'm the Doctor and I save people. I love that. And it's once again, piling on to what we just talked about with the Zygon two-part, it's once again of a problem that happens a lot in Capaldi's run. And that is he has a really amazing scene in a really meh or crappy story. That happens a lot where Capaldi has these fantastic scenes, but the stories they're in are slogs to get through. The Zygon one was one example. This one is another one. And I just live forever. Like we see her later at the end of the season, at the end of the universe. How are you doing that? Brilliantly. What? That one piece makes her live for... I don't have words to put across how stupid that is. And then you have the woman who lived, which also I don't care for. It has a couple neat things it does. The idea of a human being having like the lifetime of a Time Lord or longer is fascinating because her mind can't handle that. We already kind of saw that with Donna, with the Dr. Donna, and her not being able to handle having a Time Lord mind with the whatever that was called, the two-way metamorphosis, whatever. I don't remember what that's called. But whatever it was, we saw Donna would have died if the doctor hadn't doctored it up. But here, it's interesting that she has to keep notes because she can't remember. Like, she doesn't even remember her name, and she just calls herself Me. That's neat. I like that. That's a fascinating concept, and definitely one of the points in the story's favor. So I'll give it points for that. But just the episode I don't care for. Her being a robber. I don't even remember most of the story. I know she has to use the other chip to save the other guy at the end, but because of what happens, he doesn't live forever. It's really boring and really dumb, and I don't like it. Although I will admit that panning shot at the end of the girl who died when she's smiling, and then it pans around to where she has that neutral face when the sky, and to show the passing of time, was a really cool camera shot. But yeah, it's just, once again, it's just boring. It does a nice job of setting up for Face the Raven, and is another perfect example of the Doctor causing himself problems down the line inadvertently, because when he chooses to play God by saving her, he sets up the events that happen in Face the Raven, which get Clara killed. So it's once again the Doctor playing God and not thinking it through and accidentally causing himself further problems later. And even he says at the end of the girl who died, I may have made a terrible mistake. And I did like at the end when Clara's showing him pictures and he sees Isildur in the background. That was pretty nifty as well. So it has 2 or 3 good things it does, but it's a whole lot of, hey, we got the actress from Game of Thrones, and puts her in what's mostly a boring story. 2 boring stories. So those are 10 episodes of modern Doctor Who that are worse than anything Classic Who ever put out. Rather watch Delta and the Bannerman, Web Planet, Edge of Destruction, any day. I want to know what you think of this list, and don't forget to check out the list with the original 15 if you haven't seen that yet. And also, I've got a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. And if you have a second and haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that subscribe button and that like button. That does help me out, and I certainly appreciate it. Most importantly, thank you for watching. And that brings me to the last one on the list, which is The Girl Who Waited, and the woman, or the girl, not The Girl Who Waited, excuse me. The Girl Who Waited is great. Let's try that again. Hey guys, Prowl 1701, and today we're going to be talking about another 10 Doctor Who stories from modern Doctor Who that are worse than the Power of Kroll. Worse than anything basically Classic Who ever put out, as Power of Kroll is kind of the poster child of Classic Who stories that aren't good on this channel. Now, if one of these stories is I'm way too tired. I'm way too tired. This heat, it's too hot. It's way too hot.